Love her or hate her, Akali is back on top of the meta. We're going to break down exactly how you can guarantee yourself a top 4 every single game with this double Nashor's Akali build. Let's go. Alright, let's just jump right into it. Akali, the new meta, here's everything you need to know. We're going to start off with items. So what makes this unique is the items that Akali needs is double Nashors. Yep, you heard that right. Double Nashors is required. There was a buff to Nashors in the recent patch, and it makes it exceptionally strong on Akali. So you pair the double Nashors with QSS, providing that survivability. This way Akali doesn't get CC'd, lets them get to that backline and destroy enemy carries. So that is as simple as that. Those are the items that you need and are required on Akali. Moving on from that, if you get an artifact item like Dawn Core, you can most definitely slam that item on Akali in place of QSS. So if you have Dawn Core and double Nashors, that part is exceptional on Akali if you have all three of those items. That artifact really brings us to an OP tier. However, Nashors with QSS is good enough. Now, another thing that you can do with the items on Akali is if you ever get a Radiant item, so through the augments, either Radiant Refactor, random Radiant item, or Pandora's items, if you get a Radiant Nashors, it brings this build up to an exceptionally OP tier. So always slam a Radiant Nashors if you can, or if you have the option to get one, take it, because when you go this build, it is leagues better than the basic one. The basic build with the 2 Nashors QSS is still good, but the Radiant item is chef's kiss. So there's a few alternate builds you can go as well if you want to just outright force this Akali build and you can't make double Nashors, QSS, or whatever. If you get a portable Forge Augment, for example, you can go Mana Zane, you can go Seeker's Arm Guard, Wit's End, Zhonya's. They all work well on Akali. But alternatively, if you just have basic items, Shojin's as always still works well on her. Archangels, despite the nerf, still works decently well. So you can go any of those AP items that typically work on Akali. However, nothing's going to beat the double Nashor's QSS with an artifact item if you get that to replace the QSS. So that's essentially what you want to go in terms of items for Akali. Now we're going to have a look at tanks and secondary carries. All right, secondary carry Rise is going to be your utility item holder. They're going to hold any kind of shred, burn, stuff like that. So for example, best in slot for Rise, Morello's, Void Staff, you can do red buff, stuff like that. Toss any extra AP items you have onto your Rise. Simple as that. All you need essentially is Akali up front, Rise in the back line with the extra leftover AP items. Moving on to tanks. So there's a couple tanks you can do up front if you're going the Supreme Cell build. We'll get to final boards and the different variations later, but Supreme Cells is essentially the 4 Supreme Cells with Jarvan up front, Poppy up front, and then Lee Sin up front if you hit level 9 for the Executioner, along with Cassante. Now, you can choose between Poppy, Jarvan, Cassante. Whoever you 2-star first, you can just slam your tank items on them. However, Jarvan's more of a tank where you want them ulting a lot. So Adaptive Helm works really well on them. Protector's Vow works well on them. You could do Spirit Visage. In addition to that, Cassante or Poppy can be your basic tank holders. So you could throw Sunfires for some burn on there. Warmogs, you can toss Gargoyles. If you get a Spark and you don't have Void Staff, you can toss a Spark on there. So it's kind of a mix. You can have those burn items, shred items if you don't have it on the Rise. Or you just put standard tank items and prioritize that on the Cassante, Poppy. Whereas Jarvan, although they still want some standard tank items, you do want them casting a lot for that stun. So Protector's Adaptive Helm works wonders. And there you have it. Very simple in terms of items. You just want to prioritize Akali as the main item holder. They're going to be your main damage. They work wonders in the backline if they can get there and destroy the enemy carry. And then you just have Rise as the secondary. And then any of your 2-star 4 costs up front can hold your tank items. Super simple, easy build to put together item-wise. Let's have a look quick at the power-ups. Power-ups haven't really changed from my previous Akali video and the Akali build that's kind of been through this entire set. You want Crimson Veil, you want Dark Amulet, you can have Thrill Seeker as a third option. However, Dark Amulet or Crimson Veil, chances are you're going to find it, and those are the 2 best in slot that you're going to use. If you don't know what they are, I'll read them out to you here really quickly. So Crimson Veil, you gain 20% Omnivamp. Overhealing from Omnivamp converts into a shield, max 40% health. Now, Dark Amulet, heal for 15% of magic damage dealt. On cast, take 8% magic health as true damage, but you gain 12 stacking ability power. So both are really good. Dark Amulet prioritizes more of your damage and advancement to the ability power, whereas Crimson Veil is more about survivability with that Omnivamp. So both are really good. It allows your Akali to really kind of ramp up during the round and survive, as that's the main thing. You need her to survive and cast and cast and cast. and destroy the enemy backline. So either of those work really well. You can go Thrill Seeker if you really need to, and you can't find any of those two. But in all the games I've played with Akali, chances are you're finding one of those two. Now, when you go in terms of tanks for power-ups, it's pretty standard, straightforward. We all know by now this late in the set what works well. So for Cassante, you want Unstoppable, you want Pure Heart, you want Inner Fire, stuff like that. You can go all out even if you get some AD bruiser items that you don't have anyone else to put on. You can toss it on the Cassante and use them as an all out secondary carry. That's an option as well. However, if they're going to be your main tank, you just want standard tank power-ups. Another good power-up to use if Poppy's your main tank is best defense. You can go those standard items for her if she has the best defense power-up, such as Steric, Spirit Visage, and Protector's Vow. This way you can just make those items on her instead of Jarvan and have her do that extra damage as a secondary tank carry as well. There's a lot of different options for this build. For power-ups, the priority is obviously on Akali, and then just a standard tank item if you don't want to get too crazy with it on your frontline tanks. Okay, so early game, let's quickly reference that, because essentially this is a fast 8 build. You need to get to level 8 with all the 4 costs that we were talking about. Poppy, Jarvan, Cassante, Ryze, Akali. That's a lot of 4 costs in this build, which means you need to be quite healthy and quite rich getting to level 8, just so you can roll it down and hit everybody you need to. That's why there's a couple alternate builds for this Akali carry. We'll go over that on the final board section coming up next. But for now, it's all about early game survivability, allowing you to get to that level 8 on 4-1, 4-2, 4-3 if you're really pushing it to get that 2-star Akali. Now, early game, you want to go Mighty Mech. There's a version of this build where you can go Mighty Mech that's also strong rather than the Supreme Cells one, and having that Mighty Mech early is extremely strong currently. So you can have Kai'Sa if you hit a Kai'Sa in the backline who can hold some of your items. If you have some AD items there or Shojins that you're spamming, or even a Nashor's works really well on her, so that you can hard slam the Nashor's if you are forcing this Akali build from the get-go. So you can have Kai'Sa on the backline. You pair it with any 3 of the Mighty Mechs you kind of get. Lucian, Aatrox works. If you get a Senna early, you toss Senna in the backline as well, who can hold your Akali items. And then you can do something like a Kennen up front to pair with that Kai'Sa to allow for that Supreme Cells. You can even go any kind of duelist, so like a Viego, an Udyr, something like that up front to empower that Kai'Sa throughout the early game. Final board time. This is the first iteration of the Akali build that you can go. Super straightforward and simple. It includes a lot of 4 costs like I mentioned. So getting to level 8 is priority. We'll talk about augments next. We'll go over exactly what augments you need to propel you there in this build. So econ augments, that's a quick little hint for the next segment. So for final board, this first iteration is Supreme Cells. You're going to want 4 Supreme Cells in Kai'Sa, Darius, Kennen, and Akali. Pair them with as many 4 costs as possible. So Ryze on the backline for that mentor bonus, Executioner buff for your Akali. They're also your secondary item holder. You have Jarvan up front for that CC. You have Poppy up front as well for the heavyweight buff with Darius. You have obviously Akali up front with Cassante. Cassante has that protector buff with Kennen. And then once you go level 9, you can put in your Lee Sin. Again, you're going to have Kai'Sa on the backline as well for that 4 Supreme Cell buff. But once you hit level 9, if you make it to level 9, Lee Sin with Executioner stance works wonders. That's essentially your final board. Let's go over it again really quickly. In the front line, you have Lee Sin, Darius, Akali, Cassante, Poppy, Jarvan, and Kennen. Backline is Kai'Sa and Ryze. Okay, this is the final iteration of the final board. It's the other option you can go if you don't want to end up rolling it down for a Cassante and a Poppy at level 8. You're already having to find Ryze. You already have to find Akali. So eliminating as many 4 costs as possible in your roll down can prove beneficial. So I'm not saying this is better or worse than the other iteration. It both has Akali with double Nashors and she's extremely strong. It'll all depend on your lobby, whether or not it's a high roll, what's going on with the other players in terms of where you end up position-wise, 1st, 4th, 5th, 2nd, 3rd. So you're going to hover around there if you hit a 2-star Akali with double Nashors regardless. It's just a matter of the lobby as a whole. Now for this final board, it's going to have Mighty Mech involved. So your Jarvan, you have Aatrox, and you have Senna. You're going to drop the Poppy and you're going to drop the Cassante until you hit level 9. When you hit level 9, instead of adding the Lee Sin, you add the Cassante. Final board at level 8 is going to look like this. Akali, Ryze, Jarvan, Kennen, Aatrox, Kai'Sa, Senna, Darius. Not much variation from the first final board we talked about. You still have 4 Supreme Cells, but you're dropping that Poppy, you're dropping that Cassante at level 8. Once you hit level 9, toss that Cassante in for the protectors, and then you can slam items on them and move them from your Jarvan if you'd like up front, as either of those can be your main tank. But that's the final board of that iteration, the Mighty Mech. This way you have the Mighty Mech unit as well up front to help with the sustain, allow your Akali to do as much damage as possible in the quickest amount of time. Either of these final boards work. Let me know if there's something else that you guys are doing that works better for you. But these are the 2 builds that I've seen and I've tried, and both work seamlessly as long as you have that 2-star Akali with your Nashers and QSS. Okay, augment section. For all the people who want to take this build to the next level, this is where you do it. If you get handed a Radiant Refractor Prismatic Augment, you are clicking that augment ASAP. I can't stress that enough. You need it if you want this build to push you to that free first, like I promised. You need to get that Radiant Nashers. If you get a Radiant Nashers Tooth on your Akali and you fill out your board, even without 2-star 4 costs like the Rise, the Poppy, the Jarvan, the Cassante, you are still winning the game. Unless, of course, pending a 4-star 3 cost. But that's not the point here. The point is this augment is S tier for this build. Click on Radiant Refractor if you're in the Prismatic lobby there for the augments and you get that option. It is amazing. Moving on from that augment, a couple gold options you can go. My personal favorite for this build is Sated Spellweaver. What this augment does is after casting an ability, champions gain 15% Omnivamp for 3 seconds. Excess healing is converted to a shield up to 500 health. Survivability for your Akali. That's all this is. That's all you need to know regarding this. You click it, your Akali stays alive, especially if she has Crimson Veil. In addition to this, you don't even need Crimson Veil as the power up. You can go Dark Amulet because you have the Omnivamp from this augment. But you click on it and your Akali is exceptionally strong. So that's a great gold one to have in Sated Spellweaver. Forward thinking, we all know this one by now, where you lose all your gold and then in 5-player combats you get it back plus 70. This is perfect because you need to get to level 8 and you need to roll down a lot of gold at level 8 in order to hit that 2-star Akali, along with the 2-star 4 costs in Poppy, Jarvan, Cassante, Rise, if you're going that iteration of the build. So this augment is S tier in that regard. Click it, hope for the best on your roll down. You have extra gold to play with, and it's a great augment to have. Okay, now for the big augment selection here. My personal favorite, one that I always recommend for these level 8 builds that you need to go to 2-star or 4 cost, is Econ augments. Any Econ augments that you see, slam it early. Hopefully you get it on that first augment selection to let you go level 8. Hopefully before the entire lobby, give you first dibs on the Akalis, and then go from there. So stuff like Slamming is really good. You can go Shopping Spree if you get a Prismatic one for the roll down eventually when you get 8. You can go Reinforcement. That's a good Econ augment because it lets you get that 2-star 4 cost with the ability of only finding 1. You can go Upward Mobility, level up any of those Prismatic ones. Silver Spoon is very good as well as a silver augment. Anything that lets you get extra gold, get extra rerolls, 2-star your 4 cost, or get to level 8 ASAP with extra XP is going to be beneficial in this situation. So just slam any of those augments that you see, click it as soon as possible, unless of course you see the Radiant items, the Sated Spellweaver, the Forward Thinking, even though Forward Thinking is kind of part of an Econ augment in that category, so I guess you can slot that into here. But any Econ augments, click on it. It'll be super beneficial for this build. It'll get you to level 8 before most of the lobby, and hopefully find that 2-star Akali ASAP. And the bonus, if you get it, is the 2-star Jarvan, 2-star Rise, 2-star Poppy, 2-star Cassante. If you hit that and you have double Nashers on Akali, the game's already over. So you don't have to worry about anything else. And that's it. That's the gist of it. That's the Akali build, the new and improved version. If you hated Akali the first time, you're going to hate her the second time. She's very strong. She's destroying backlines. And if you can't beat them, join them. Try this build out. Let me know how it works for you in the comments below. The double Nashers QSS is the items to have on her. If you don't have that, check out that first section again that I talked about the different item variations you can have. Not as good as that, but the QSS, Nashers is the way to go. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe below for all set 15. Are we set 15 or set 14? I totally had a brain fart there. I think we're set 15. Yeah, set 15 meta breakdowns. Subscribe below. I'll bring you everything and anything regarding KO Coliseum. Next up, we have some augment breakdowns. Some pros are showing which best augments to pick just in general for the game. in the current 15.5 patch. So stay tuned for that as a short. Otherwise, make sure you subscribe, stay up to date, get those notifications going, and let me know in the comments below how this build's working for you or other builds that are working great for you in 15.5. I'll catch you guys on the next one, and as always, good luck on the grind.